That is transport, being a carrier. Don't ever do it. Is that recording? Keep that.
Hi, I'm Steve, CEO of Interparcel, and today I've got Roy, Managing Director and Founder of CRL Express. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Roy, in 2018, you decided to start up CRL Express.
Yep.
Obviously, with every new business, there's a reason or a need that you find in the market that drives you to set something up like CRL Express. Can you take us through what that gap in the market was?
Honestly, Steve, it wasn't that exciting. I did have a vision.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a great gap in terms of finding a player who's like a medium-sized business to service, Australia-wide and service the landscape. And I'm also of the belief that we want to be able to provide a personal service, and so obviously, given my experience in my previous roles, I kind of found that gap and just went for it.
Great.
But it wasn't that exciting.
Roy, can you take us through, I guess, a little bit about the Australian transport industry, its current state, some of the challenges as a carrier that you face, and maybe something that you can see in the future, some changes that are taking place as we speak?
Yeah, some insights. Well, talking about it before, there's quite a few companies that are finding it hard to make ends meet and stay afloat. So the current market is I think the stats are last year there was something like 430 insolvencies, and by July this year there was 500 plus. That was based on ASIC. So definitely a much harder year to be a carrier. It's not easy. The challenge in 2025 is the revenue, truth be said, because everyone's down trading. The market, consumer spending's down, so trying to find that revenue is a bit of a challenge. Some of the smarter players found it through acquisition, whereas others found it through putting more resources on as a BDMs and account managers and whatnot. So they're the current challenges. Challenges as a whole, we live in a country which is quite large.
Yes.
Australia is not the friendliest landscape, especially when you're going to the Karathas of the world and Geraldtons and WA delivering to a mine or something like that. So that in itself has its own challenges. But we've been blessed to have the volumes that we have. Recently, Steve, we actually achieved what we did our own analysis, and we think we've covered most of Australia, or all livable postcodes in Australia. Yeah. So that was, I think, end of 2023. And of course, there's other livable postcodes that come about through greenfields and all that stuff. Yes. But yeah. We're pretty fortunate to have a pretty good network.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the investments that CRL have made in warehouses, their locations, and maybe some of the regional partners that you work with, just so you can get that coverage of Australia?
Yeah. Investments. So, I think before we talk about investments, it's probably good to elaborate. The type of freight we take.
Yes.
Because that will define the type of assets we buy.
Yes.
So the type of freight we take is obviously a lot more skids, pallets. We do some cartons now, as I said before, for selected customers. It's more of a tailored solution, the carton work. We've got cages and we don't have a conveyor belt, and a couple of obviously smaller rigids that we deliver in. But effectively that solution is obviously a quite a unique one. But holistically, if we talk about 80% of the revenue, it's pallets and skids.
Yes.
Yeah. And so with that comes the need for taut liners. And taut liners are generally defined as a vehicle that has curtains on the side, where you pull the curtain to the side and you load with a forklift on the vehicle and off the vehicle. And so the majority of given the fact the majority of our freight is skids and pallets, it means we've got a lot more bigger vehicles, so that, you know, we've got a lot of semi-trailers, B-doubles, rigids. Currently, CRL probably has, I'd say, I don't know the number, to be honest, because we just keep buying.
Yeah.
But I think we're up to around about 18 to 20 trailers,
Okay.
which are obviously used for line haul. We don't invest in rigids. We don't do that because we find owner drivers are a lot better operators for the local game than direct employees, and there's obviously also some tax implications there, which we'll talk about a different day. But yeah, effectively, our own assets are in the line haul space. You know, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Sydney, Perth back, Melbourne and Adelaide, and so on and so forth.
Great. So further to that, I guess if we extend regionally as well, you're relying on some regional, on forwarders.
Yeah.
I know that landscape has changed as well.
Yeah.
I know historically, a lot of those operators, they were family businesses.
Yes.
And I think there's been a generational shift, right, where I guess maybe the children of those or the family, they might not want to get into that game now. Have you felt that?
Isn't that with every Gen 2 though?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's I know particularly in transport in some of the regional areas, it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah.
And we've got to keep Australia moving, and I think it's an important part.
Yeah.
Or an area to look at in that regional delivery space.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're bang on. So they say obviously, I think 85% of Australia lives on the eastern seaboard.
Yes.
Which means that there's another 15% to the rest of Australia. But the eastern seaboard doesn't also necessarily mean that they all live in metro areas. It could mean that they live in Newcastle, which is a coastal city, and Coffs Harbour and Byron Bay and a few others. So to answer your question, you're right. I guess when we first met 10 years ago, the dynamic was different. You know, obviously we used to fax a lot of the PODs back then, and it used to be the type of demographic that was doing the deliveries was generally defined as an Australian who grew up in the country and that had a couple of kids and had a couple of trucks and machines and just did the deliveries, right? So I guess from that's kind of changed. You're right. So that demographic has changed, and obviously our industry is now predominantly an older generation. So there's that aging factor to it. But I think it's also evolved. So, you know, the on-forwarding network that we use I think something like 48 on-forwarding agents. Okay. You know, from as far north to Cairns, all the way to, you know, as far high as Broome, which is in WA. But those agents, there's far few in between, and so each area has, I guess, a monopoly or a duopoly of agents, where generally it's one or two people servicing for the same carrier, like, you know, for us and for the TNTs of the world and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, since we've started CRL Express on the Interparcel website, it's given a lot of our small to medium-sized business access to a pallet service now. It's a B2B pallet service that we offer with a tail lift add-on if needed as well. The other service, it's a pallet service that's fork on, fork off. Our customers tell us that the visibility is really good with CRL.
Okay.
Which is great.
I get that.
So can you tell us why that is?
So I guess being like a younger individual in the industry, you know, obviously the issue at the moment is our industry is a aging industry. A lot of drivers, I think the average age of a driver is like 48 years old, or you know, it's actually more than that. That may be the case for local, but then line haul is something different completely as well. But it is pretty high. So you know, you're talking about someone who's kind of come in the game that's quite young, and so with that respect, I brought in that digitalization to the industry. So when I was operating one truck, It was scan in depot, scan on pickup, scan on delivery. It was like kind of engraved from the get-go, from one driver. And so as we grew, that became really easy. You know, trying to change the technology of, say, Toll, you know, who may have 4,000 staff and 40 depots and whatnot, it would be like a two to 3 year project, right? For CRL, it was completely different.
Yeah.
We started with one driver who had the scanner, and then every agent we got onboarded, we said, we will not onboard you unless you've got scanning capabilities.
Yeah.
So I think almost 90% of agents have scanning on delivery. And now when we paint the whole picture, we get compliments like that, because that's a compliment for a company which has been around for 4 years to say to me, oh, your track and trace is almost as good as AusPost.
Yeah.
You know, like that's great. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So we've put a lot of focus on that from the get-go.
Yeah, it's a real necessity in the industry, so it's great that we have that feedback from our customers.
Yeah.
Some of the customers that you use that use CRL through Interparcel, they're in the big and bulky space. They've got wholesale orders that they're delivering into businesses. A lot of that larger homewares, boating, camping, fishing sort of stuff like that. Can you tell us about, I guess, some of the niches that you serve in CRL Express? Who is CRL Express good for?
So, and I also have one question for you as well, by the way. So our current niche is in the hardware.
Okay.
So we've done hardware, and we also do that tailored solution that I spoke about earlier. We do a lot of deliveries into Bunnings. You know, I'd say 30 to 40% of all my deliveries are Bunnings related.
Okay.
So, you know, it's suppliers that have, have a product which can be used by the construction industry, where they may be silicon or whether it may be power tools. And CRL kind of has just grown into those types of deliveries. Didn't really, I can't say it was a niche. It just came from, being able to do it, because a lot of carriers say no to Bunnings deliveries, as you know. Or a lot of customers don't want to use a carrier that charges exorbitant amounts for a demurrage to a Bunnings store. So we do it on a shared cost basis. So if we're delivering 4 consignments there, we don't charge each consignment and try and double dip. We just share it. If we've been there for an hour, 25 minutes, 15 minutes each. And that's kind of given us the advantage. That's one area we're quite advantageous in. Another area is dangerous goods. So we have now got the connecting dots between Brisbane all the way to Perth, where we can do packaged goods, packaged DG. That is most of the classes, class 8, class 3, 2.1s. We obviously don't do 1.4Ss, that's a special license now. And we do some, 2 of our warehouses are HACCP approved. So we do a lot of food 3PL and food deliveries. And I guess next in Brisbane, we've just got our Aquis license as well, so biosecurity. We're just, given that we offer a 3PL service, we want to be able to quarantine on site in order to allow for faster turnaround for our customers to get their, biosecurity checked. Other than that, I think they're the sort of main niches that we offer. Oh, and time slot deliveries. Of course, into the Costco's and the Kmart's of the world, which is, bulk deliveries there.
Okay, but the core is the B2B pallets, is that?
Yeah, B2B, yeah, and they all kind of work in unisons, like, your Bunnings hardware, some of those products have DG.
Yes.
So you're delivering into Bunnings a DG product. From a biosecurity point of view, we've got customers that import rice. That rice needs Aquis. That rice also needs HACCP. So one customer will lead on to the next thing and to the next thing, and then before you know it, you've formulated a bit of a solution for that customer, which entices other customers to it. And then, you've now formulated a bit of a niche.
Roy, I'm going to pick your brain here a little bit about packaging and specifically about pallet packaging. There's okay, there's good, and there's great. You've probably seen them all, including the really bad end of packaging. Can you take us through what should, I guess, people packaging a pallet take into consideration? I always say that people need to understand that someone is handling that pallet and it needs to be safe. So if you want to take us through that.
You know what, funny you say that. I had this exact same conversation with one of my customers, Richard, and I was saying to him of how I think the pallet should be packaged, and he was saying differently. My interpretation, especially from a line haul point of view, and I always go worst case scenario, because if you're sending a pallet, you might have a customer Sydney to Melbourne, Melbourne, Sydney, but tomorrow, if you get an order for Perth, are you going to package it the same way to Perth? And if you have been packaging it with minimal damages, going to Perth is going to expose it. That's right. Because I think it's 4,500 Ks. So that distance to Perth, especially the bumpy roads, and some of the roads to Perth ain't the best, and the strap tensioning as well, will really do some sort of damage to the pallet. So I guess the best way to package an item, depending on what it is, always use slip sheets, especially if it's food. Food, you want to be putting slip sheets underneath, and that's actually a HACCP requirement. Then you want to be, if the boxes are square, you want to try and pull cornices, especially if it's fragile. The rule of thumb is anything sort of, I'd say less than a couple of 100 kilos, make sure you're using cornices. And then the wrapping itself, I like to make sure that the wrapping becomes a bit cloudy. So when we're talking about the shrink wrap going around, if you can see the clear shrink wrap and you can see the product clearly, you probably haven't wrapped it enough. You want it to be a little bit cloudy.
That's a really good tip. I think people need to consider also, it's at the other end, receiving, they want to receive a pallet and they don't want it, boxes falling off it as well.
Absolutely.
And its reputation, they could be your wholesaler, for example. So, and like you mentioned, I like that point, is that if you're only doing, Eastern State delivery, Sydney to Brisbane, Sydney to Melbourne, and then you get a Broome or an Alice Springs or a Darwin or a WA, you need to pack accordingly for that.
Especially when it gets cross-docked like 3-4 times. Like, when you think about the journey to Broome, especially someone out of Sydney, it's going to more than likely, it will go Sydney to Perth, Perth on forwarder to Broome. Some carriers into Darwin, for example, will go via Adelaide. So it'll go Sydney, Melbourne, Melbourne, Adelaide, Adelaide up to Darwin. That's 4 stops. Every stop he makes, it's getting handled. You're increasing your risk of any damages, and it's also, like, I think a lot of people don't understand that the strap can also damage the goods accidentally. I mean, under CRL, we have to strap everything, and so our guys are going to strap it, and they're going to strap it well. And so that strapping, if you don't package your pallet correctly, it's going to rip through the pallet.
Correct.